theoretical. It's lived experience. This is real. This is personal for me and for so many others. As someone who was born in the Philippines, who was raised in this country as a Filipino-American, who all too often, like so many, felt the sting of hate in all its forms, whether it be harassment or discrimination or prejudice or bigotry or being othered, the consummate other, always visiting, never belonging. That's been the experience of so many in this country, including me.
What was it like growing up Filipino, growing up brown, in a predominantly white community? And I say this because it's very timely discussion right now when we're talking about hate. We're trying to address StopTheHate issues.
So in Lakewood, it was very diverse here growing up. The outside optics of what Lakewood is predominantly white, and it isn't growing. I grew up in, I guess if you look at the data, that's what it looks like, but growing up, I didn't see color lines. I was very diverse. I had all walks of every nationality in my household, hanging out, having dinner with my parents, eating moms. We were able to share the Filipino culture with everything that we touched, whether it's schools, whether it's families, whether it's my kids in the neighborhood growing up. They all had some type of touch to the Filipino culture, but I'm till this day still having a hard time with that because it's been diverse since day one for me. There wasn't any color lines, and I wasn't segregated, I wasn't left out because, you're athletic, right? We play sports. The goal is to play sports together. You play baseball, you play tackle football. That's what we did here. So it's like we ride bikes, we surf. There's no color lines in those sports. It's very into the culture. So growing up here, I was into the culture more or less, not looking in versus looking out of what people are perceiving me to be.
You went to a predominantly white school.
Yeah.
What was it like for you?
So growing up, I went to a Christian school in Modesto, and I was like the only Filipino there. And when you're young, you're not really thinking about ethnicities and race. You just see boys and girls, and you go to school. But I started noticing like all the boys I liked, they never liked me. They liked the blonde hair, blue-eyed girl. And it did make me insecure. I noticed my eyes were different shape, and I just was never really treated like everybody else. But the love I got from my parents, I didn't really feel the insecurity that I could have felt if I didn't have that love and support from them, but I did feel like I was different. And I remember going towards high school, I said, Mom and Dad, I want to go to a public school because everybody in that district is different ethnicities. So they were super supportive and allowed me to. So I did want to be around different ethnicities because I did feel left out. I felt left out. People would make fun of me about like speaking Tagalog. They would be like, oh, ching chong ching. I'm just like, and that's honestly a reason why I don't speak fluent Tagalog, is because they would make fun of me. So I shied away from that. And that's one thing I do regret. Like, I wish that I didn't care so much about people making fun of me with my culture. And now I'm like embracing it and I love it. And
you're being embraced back.
Yes.
By this community.
I'm so grateful and happy and honored to be a voice for the Filipino community and to stand up for ourselves and to just love ourselves for who we are. And it was really tough in the beginning, like, obviously I didn't know, but then I started realizing, like, as an adult, like, wow, I didn't realize I was being bullied. I didn't realize that I really was affected by that. And growing up and seeing that, now from looking back, it sucks. It sucks to have to go through that, and people are going through that now. And that's why I really want to continue spreading self-love, awareness of just loving yourself and embracing who you are, because at the end of the day, there's only one you.
Everyone is talking about and crediting you for giving them an opportunity. How does that make you feel?
That's all I wanted. I mean, I learned that from my mom, and I learned that from other Filipinos. Like there's just something of this sense of pride, that prideful. Like when you saw me on The Tonight Show, the only reason why you knew I was Filipino, because I didn't do a routine on being Filipino, because back then, that generation, it was a weird time. You couldn't be specific back then. You would get notes from the network saying, hey, that's too specific. We're trying to talk to middle America. So you had to change your act. You had to do things that was normalized, that now is offensive. And I feel bad about some of the stuff I did, but that's how I had to do it. That's how I had to get on The Tonight Show. But I knew I had to do one thing, which was put that Filipino flag on my chest. And that's what that was. It's like that moment that I was on stage on The Tonight Show wearing the flag, you know, and me being able to get your attention, that's what this is. This is like, now we get to have our voice heard. Now we get to see what our family looks like. And now that people that look like us are being recognized, or they have a sense of pride when they go to the theaters or when they go to work.
Do you think that the fight should start at home though? Because I know that like Filipino parents inside the house also tell their children, you know, we're second-class citizens here. Don't rock the boat. Don't say anything. If you hear anything, look down and walk away. That has got to stop too.
Definitely, and that may be a view in some households, with some community members, but there's also another strain within the API community and rising up against hate. And so that was my family. My family was the one that taught me to not be silent, to speak out against injustice, to fight back, to raise your voice and shed a spotlight on injustice, to confront it. And folks not turning away from the problem, but directly confronting it to address it. So there's a rich history of fighting back and of activism and of not putting your head down, not accepting the unacceptable, and making sure that there is change and that our communities do not continue to be hurt or exploited or targeted or attacked, and that we fight back.
There's so much to celebrate about the strength of the local Filipino-American community, but we know there are also challenges. Yes. Last June, this very park was the site of a vicious and violent attack on a 70-year-old Filipino-American named Cesar Gutano. Early one morning, he came to this park to go on the walk that he walks every morning, and unprovoked, a man began to verbally harass him, telling him he didn't belong here, and telling him to go back to his country. But Cesar did not engage, but the man followed him and his wife back to their car, and before they could drive away, he pulled open Cesar's car door and began beating him. Such a sad, sad thing happened right here in this park in LA County. But he survived. He was, of course, hurt, and he was traumatized. And for months after that attack, he didn't even want to leave his house. So I think it's perfect that we're here today at the same park where that attack took place against a Filipino resident, showing everybody we're not afraid and we won't back down.
So yes, I have been very active in the StopAsianHate movement. It is very sad when people prey upon our seniors or our most vulnerable in our communities. And me as an elected official, Attorney General Rob Bonta, and others are standing up to be that voice, to make sure that our victims are supported, to make sure the assailants or the attackers are going to be prosecuted for these type of hate crimes. We all need to stand together with our allies so that when one of our communities are attacked, we all are protecting each other, rising up together, and making sure that our communities are safe.
To me, race is just the skin color. Right. That's about it.
Right. It is, though, at the forefront now because of a lot of hate crimes. Stop the Hate is now becoming a big campaign. Your thoughts, and how do you think should we contribute to that?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that that's happening, you know, whether it is intentional or not intentional. But it's really sad, especially if a person that's who's kind of old is being attacked. It's really, it hurts me. It hurts me. So what I would advise is just be on the lookout. Just be careful when you go out there, especially if you're advanced age. Don't go out by yourself. And then join the rallies to promote, inclusiveness in the community. Mm-hmm. So let's do our share. Because what we need to do is to educate other people that we are all the same.
So for instances where the victim may not necessarily be ready to report, we want to talk to the viewers. If you know someone who's been a victim or someone who's gone through this, can they then report on the victim's behalf?
So I think there's a couple of different options for people. One is if people still don't feel safe coming to the government, there are options like Stop AAPI Hate where people can report that information. But if they want to come to us and they don't feel safe, we often work with churches, with mosques, with synagogues, with LGBTQ centers, places where people, they've already earned that trust. Right. Then we can then serve the needs through that person. We know community activists and organizations have been doing this work for so long. If we could be a resource to them, that would be a huge benefit to us.
So how can us, the community, help you help us?
It's a tragedy, but it's true, is if you talk to immigrant communities, Asian American communities, African American communities, people will talk about the fact that, well, I confront this hate all day. Why would I report it? This is a part of my, this is a part of my daily existence. Mm-hmm. So part of it is letting people know it is not okay and that there may be resources and support. So that's one thing. Another thing that we can do is, again, those organizations can serve as a bridge. They do feel safe going to one of those organizations or to a friend. Serve as that bridge, help them identify their options. And then finally, making sure our education system is comprehensive and inclusive and talks about the fact that we have in our country, unfortunately, we do have a long history of racism and discrimination, but at the same time, we have a history of people, particularly the people who are targeted for discrimination, refusing to accept that and to say, I'm going to make this country better. I'm going to make this country closer to its ideals. The other thing is if you are a bystander, one of the things they emphasize is that you have to keep yourself safe as well, and that's important. But there are actions you can take to help to redirect, to help if you see something on the street so that people don't get hurt. And those trainings are available, often free of charge. And so that's, again, there are some extraordinary Asian American groups more broadly, and certainly Filipino civil rights groups in California that are doing some of that work. I just think we really do need to recognize and respect the ways in which, Filipino-Americans, Asian Americans more broadly have really made this country stronger by speaking up.